One. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to Intelligent Future, Navigating AI in Society, a podcast dedicated to exploring the intricate world of artificial intelligence and its impact on our lives. I'm your host, Mohammed Amin Kohel, an associate professor at Zayed University, and in each episode, we dive deep into different ways AI shapes our daily experiences, challenges its present, and the future it's forging. Welcome to today's episode where we try to answer the pressing question, will AI lead to widespread unemployment? Join us as we explore the potential impact of artificial intelligence on the job market and our society. Our guest today, Dr. Jose, originally from Barcelona, with a PhD in bio-inspired robotics from the Tokyo Institute of Technology, currently teaches at the Computer Science Department of UAE University. His courses include visualization, design thinking, ethics for IT, HCI leadership, leadership in IT, and agile. Additionally, he coaches entrepreneurs at the university's incubator and has taught at various business and design schools. A regular lecturer on creativity and strategy for corporations and governments, Dr. Jose has consulted for companies like Apple, Lulu Group, Etihad Airways, and Port Middle East. In 2008, he founded two startups and has authored books like Introduction to Data Visualization and Storytelling. His research is centered on applied data science. Dr. Jose has also given talks about AI and its impact on the society, which makes him a great candidate for today's episode. Dr. Jose, welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure, Amin Kohel.
Thank you. Dr. Jose, our first question. As you know, Elon Musk has expressed concerns about the impact of AI and automation on employment. He actually believes that automation is becoming more prevalent and it will lead to significant job displacement. Elon Musk has suggested that this shift might necessitate the introduction of a universal basic income by governments to address the unemployment caused by AI and automation. On the other side of the spectrum, we have Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, who seem to be more optimistic about AI in terms of its benefits to the society, in particular healthcare and education. So as you can see, we have these two extremes. We have some leaders in high tech who are extremely cautious, extremely pessimistic about AI and its effect on humanity. And on the other side, we have other giant high tech leaders who are extremely optimistic about AI. So where do we go with that?
It's a very important question for society because we already have live in unstable times, and we're thinking, whoa, we do not need more instability now. And they are both right. The funny thing, first, universal income is not a new thing. It's been around for a few years, decades. In France, for example, they had this universal kind of income for large swaths of the population. It was about 400 euros. And yeah, so it's nothing new. It works very well. Regarding the changes, we've seen this before, like with the mining industry, for example, especially in Europe. We had a lot of mining. And then in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, the machines were doing a lot of work and you didn't need so many miners. And we also had that in Spain. And the government had a problem. These people skilled in a very specific skill. And from one year to another, we tell them, well, we don't need you anymore because we have this machine now, or we built a nuclear power plant. We don't need to extract so much coal and so on. And so what the governments did is it's called the reconversion, no? The conversion of the industrial into something else. And it's very hard. It's very hard because when people are young miners, yes, they can learn something else. But for a 40-year-old, 50-year-old, it's much harder and it's really hard. And so now the thing is, okay, we have all these software engineers, for example. And you start seeing this with the tech layoffs, yeah? And some people say, no, it's not related to ChatGPT, but I'm convinced it's related. And and you need less and less software engineers. So that's very interesting. So what's going to happen? I don't know, but it's such a big problem that it's going to be a government problem.
So you think only the government is part of the solution? Like, what about the society? What about us as individuals? I mean, is there something that we can do, regardless of our age, to, deal with the challenges that AI is bringing to the society?
Yes, that's a very interesting thing. The other day, I was showing I did a chatbot for my students, and I showed it to a teacher from a school,
Mhm.
and she was not very happy with the chatbot. She said, "Oh no, don't use AI because if you use it, AI will win." So I think it's such a big problem that it's only the government, and it's only the government who should tackle it. It's the perfect instrument that we have created to tackle these kind of problems. And of course, today there's a lot of um, talk about, oh, governments are bad. Governments are bad. No, that's not true.
Mhm.
Governments do a lot of great stuff, including organizing people to go to the moon or to
Sure.
Mars. So all this rhetoric about, oh, governments are useless and so on, oh, that's very toxic, and it's not true.
So I agree that governments are part of the solution. But for some of us, we feel they're not moving fast enough, and they're not necessarily moving at all levels. So let's say that I'm a parent. There are many parents out there, and we have kids, and our kids will definitely face this issue of AI much stronger than us. And I don't think we should sit idle and wait for governments to find a solution for us. What should we do? How do we prepare the young generation for this big challenge of AI, replacing them or taking their jobs?
That's a very interesting question. What I try to teach my students in the class is that I encourage them as much as possible to use AI to solve the homework
Mhm.
and to solve the tasks.
Mhm.
And that means that the tasks that before were based on memorization has lost a lot of value
Mhm.
and is not valuable anymore. But it also means that we have more time to spend on highly added value
Mhm.
homework
Mhm.
that because we have removed this task of, oh, you need to memorize all these Unix commands.
Mhm.
Now we can focus on creating more value faster. And I think that's the key to change. And this is the problem with us academics. Like, we need to change our mindset and stop thinking about valuable knowledge is knowledge that is memorized, and change into, hey, how do you create value when you have more time, given
Mhm.
that you know all these technical skills?
Mhm. Mhm. Fantastic. So you're saying students and educators need to focus on higher value work, which I think that definitely carries a lot of weight. But what does that mean? It's really difficult to define, isn't it? And does it depend on the field as well? Like I always thought in certain fields, maybe medicine is one of them, you're expected to memorize certain things. Like when you're diagnosing your patient, for instance, there are certain steps that naturally come to you, and I think a lot of physicians memorize these steps. So you're saying memory is losing value, although maybe some memory is still needed for us to function. But I shift the conversation back to the educators. So the educators, how should they? Well, they definitely have to change, given that AI is transforming everything, especially the educational platform. But how should they change? What should they focus on now? Should they focus on better educational resources, more critical thinking, more collaborative activities? So, for instance, in Finland, which is considered a pioneer for education, they have the 4 Cs framework, which focuses on critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. Do you think that this is how like educators need to move forward to focus on these 4 Cs, or what's the recipe for success for educators and students now?
Yeah, I really like this 4 Cs framework, and I think it's very to the point. in my case, what I do in my classes is I ask the students, don't be shy to use ChatGPT. Just tell me. For my thesis students, I tell them, don't be shy, just use it. Just tell me you're using it. Be careful with the hallucinations. Be careful with the possible potential plagiarism. And then the student, for example, for literature reviews, instead of spending 18 hours or 20 hours doing a literature review, they spend 4 hours, they do it better, and then they have more energy and more time to focus on the core of the project. And so there's nothing wrong with that. This is amazing. So we have more time to do really new things and advance the creation of knowledge in a more effective way.
All right. So you're saying using AI as a tool to make your work, academic work, more effective, which I find that amazing. But there are some educators who are arguing that the core skills need to be taught. So to focus on the domain that you and I are familiar with, for instance, computer science, I heard the argument, even from professional developers, that you still need to learn these core skills, like, for instance, programming fundamentals. And you should not rely on ChatGPT giving you the code right away. You should instead invest some time in learning these fundamentals. Would you agree with them on that?
I 100% disagree with them. And we had this debate in mathematics, for example. There were two sides. One side argued that the student should know calculus, all the details, integrals, differential calculus, they should know all the details. Another side argued, no, they just need to know how to use integrals to solve big challenges we have, like this conjecture or this other conjecture. So then these two sides never agreed. In our field, computer science, when you and I studied, at least myself, we were forced to learn machine language and C++, because those were the only two languages that existed.
Correct.
Apart from BASIC. When we were studying, Java was invented. The universities never thought of adopting Java. I learned Java by myself, and that's how I got my first job. Then a decade later, the university wakes up and say, "Oh, we should teach Java," and we stop. Like you cannot teach everything, so they stopped teaching C++, which freed a lot of mental power because you don't have pointers or memory allocation in Java, right? It was automated, and this allowed to create amazing applications with Java. And now all the banking industry runs on Java, not C++.
Correct.
And so why would you stuck in low-level value-added tasks? Yes, a certain percentage of software engineers need to know system-level machine learning, machine language, and so on, like Linus Torvalds. Yes, but not everybody. And that's the thing. That's the thing we don't realize. Hey, not everybody needs to know the nitty-gritty. Just a few percentage of the engineers need to know it. So we keep innovating in those fields as well.
That's an interesting point, because I actually wanted to come back to you at that, but you did it yourself. Because I attended a workshop on parallel programming that was back in 2019, and one guy who works at Intel, he said that they are always looking for engineers who are really good at assembly language and C++. Now, for our listeners or viewers who are not aware of that, it means these are low-level programming languages that are harder to learn. And his claim was that if you know these languages very well, then you can really optimize the performance of some certain algorithms associated with CPUs and things like that. But again, as you said, only a minority of the programmers are needed in that domain.
Yeah, and this is the mistake we do in software programs. We don't allow customization. Not everybody needs to know C++ to be successful in life or to add value to society.
100%, exactly. But I want to go back to the challenges that I think it's beyond the education sector. As a society, right? What are some of the coping mechanisms that our viewers and listeners who are really worried, like if you, let's say that you are, one of our viewers is in the domain of editing, right? Or proofreading, right? And we can see that tools like Grammarly Go or even ChatGPT, they are doing most of that now. What should people on that domain do? What should the drivers do? Because we know that self-driving cars are coming and they're going to be in every major city very soon. So should they
Yeah.
panic? What should they do?
Yeah. So remember when Google released Google Translate, everybody thought, oh, the translating profession is going to die. And what
Mhm.
happened? How many how many translators lost their jobs since it was invented a decade ago? So zero. Nobody lost their jobs. What happened? Translating became more productive.
Okay.
That's the only thing that happened. That's the only thing that happened. They kept salaries kept more the same. No one lost their jobs.
Okay, so you think like if I'm a proofreader or an editor, I will still continue to do my job because there are certain fine things that these AI tools won't be able to do, but they will do, let's say, 90% of what I do. But that 10%, I'll do it very well and I'll become much faster. That's what you're saying.
You That's what we're seeing already. I have a friend. She
Mhm.
works as a strategy copy editing.
Mhm.
Like she produces the text that
Mhm.
corporations use to
Mhm.
define their strategy and so on.
Mhm.
And she tells me, she asked me, how can I use ChatGPT? So I teach her how to use ChatGPT. She came back 1 month later, she's so happy.
Mhm.
Like, I'm so much more productive.
Wonderful.
My boss is super happy. Everything is
Wonderful.
amazing. It's great. So everybody becomes more productive.
So, but that goes for this situation. But let's say you are a driver, a truck driver in the US, and we know that automated trucking is happening. Um, it's not like you can, you're still needed. You're not, you may not be needed anymore. So we have to admit that some jobs might be replaced.
And I think that's a good thing. Like if you think about the life of a trucker, it's a very sad life, right? They're far away from the families for long
Correct.
periods of time, um, basically adding value to society, but it's not high added value.
Mhm.
Um, um, so I would say it's a good thing that this job disappear. It doesn't make humanity better that you have what is it, 8% of the U.S. population dedicated to transport.
Mhm.
I think that's the same with agriculture. Like 1,000 years ago, like people spend, like my
So
my
much time.
grandparents spent 60-70% of their time in the field,
Yeah,
mm,
you're right. Correct.
with the potatoes.
Yeah.
And what was the point of that? Yeah, okay, they survived,
Mhm.
but it would have been much better if they had a tractor, right?
Mhm.
For everybody. So it doesn't help anybody. It's not.
Mhm.
So
I
I
see.
think it's a good thing that they disappear, these jobs, and because they don't necessarily add a lot to humanity. But if these truck drivers, there's one that could become an Einstein, right?
Mhm.
That becomes more interesting. No? So that's what we're talking about.
Wonderful. So basically, if you are in that domain, then you have to make steps to find something more productive and something. So as such, does that go for many other jobs? Not, I mean, these two are the obvious ones, but I think even other jobs. We started the podcast by saying software engineer, um, and probably many other jobs, maybe professional writers. Those are also threatened. Even the highly, quote unquote, highly skilled jobs are also threatened. So does that mean that as a coping strategy for all of us humans, we need to continue to learn and perhaps be flexible and change jobs more often? Is that something that you think in the future will happen?
Going back to the Google Translate example is an example I love. It's like nobody lost their jobs. Everybody became more productive. And I think that's how we have to look at this. Like everybody will become more productive. If
Mhm.
you look even in the life of a teacher.
Mhm.
A teacher is supposed to teach and to research. And if you look at the time they actually spend teaching and the time they actually spend researching, like researching product, producing knowledge, not paperwork, not applying for grants, not dealing with paperwork, basically.
Yes.
You'd be surprised. Like it's less than 8-10%. And
Mhm.
ChatGPT can help you with the other 90% so that
Mhm.
people have more time to actually do productive
Mhm.
knowledge creation work.
Mhm.
So I think that's how we have to look at it.
Wonderful. Okay, so it's so shifting the mindset into how I become more productive with these tools, as opposed to how I can survive. You will survive. You are an intelligent person. You will survive. You just need to figure out how to become more productive with these tools. Very good. So therefore, the argument, because a lot of people see it in that way, the argument that it's AI versus us is a flawed argument. Would you say that?
That's like saying the farmer saying, "Oh, the tractor against us." No, um, no, no, it's not against us. It's better that we have a tractor so like we can
Mhm.
produce cheap food and cheap potatoes, and everybody can eat a potato.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's the argument, I think.
Mhm.
And the thing is to manage the transition. The thing with the other revolutions is that this one is very fast. So when you had
Exactly.
the this one is very fast. Okay, it's very fast. Even I
Extremely.
heard that AI researchers, which I'm not,
Mhm.
many of them are feeling stressed because the field is going so fast.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
and and so we have to manage this, and this is such a big problem that
Mhm.
only
Mhm.
the government can tackle it.
Let's explore that a little bit because you brought it up in the beginning, and I don't think we gave it sufficient time. So the government, what can governments, legislators do in the era of AI revolution?
So as Elon Musk said, universal income is one. Once you have infinite productivity or infinite sufficient production, basically,
Mhm.
you can have a universal income.
Mhm.
It's com- it doesn't break society. It's actually better for society, and it's been implemented. I think in Finland they have it as well, and
Mhm.
it's implemented in many other places, and it's not a big problem. It's good for society.
Okay, that's a good point. But don't you think that humans, because when you say universal basic income, does it mean that all of us will get the same? Do you think humanity will move on and accept that? Because in general, humans are competitive. At least most humans are competitive. And now that with this universal income, I feel like, all right, so there is equality. And I don't know, like, well, how do you feel? I don't know if I made my point. How do you feel about that? Yeah.
Yeah, so we can look at the countries that are working very well, like Finland, right? I think Finland has a kind of universal income. I think in Finland, if you don't have a house, the government gives you a house,
Mhm.
and nobody's in the streets. So you
Mhm.
can look at it. It's not so complicated. You can look at these countries, see how they do it. It's not complicated. Some
Mhm.
people hate it because
Mhm.
it threatens the status quo, but
Mhm.
it's completely feasible and safe.
Mhm. 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 So you're saying that the countries that implemented that or are thinking about implementing it, they do have some evidence to suggest that it improves the well-being of the society in general. Maybe it doesn't work for a few individuals, but it improves the well-being of the society in general.
From a practical, Finland, the happiest country on earth. From a practical point of view, I mean, you've been there.
Mhm.
Uh, de facto, there's a universal income. Like if you're poor and you don't have a house, the government gives you a house, and
Excellent.
you can live in that house. Like and so it's like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So,
it's
but
very doable.
in terms of purpose, do you think that with AI automation, we're gonna lose purpose as humans? Because a lot of humans associate their purpose with career. Like, all right, I'm living because I'm a teacher, and this is make me happy and giving me a purpose. And so, are we gonna lose purpose with the rise of AI, or how do you feel about that?
This is a question for futurists, and one of my favorite ones is Ian M. Banks, the author of the Culture series.
Mm-hmm.
The Culture series is where Elon Musk steals the names for his ships. So this platform that says, of course, I still love you. That's a name of a ship from this book. In this book, AI has become super smart, and the humans live together with AI. And, and there's a spaceship, and there are robots, droids, and humans. And one of the humans works as a bartender.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, why do you work? You don't need to work, because nobody needs to work. And the guy said, well, I'm proud that I clean this table and I clean it well, and the next customer will sit in a clean table. And that gave him purpose. And I think we don't want to admit this, but everybody needs this kind of thing.
Exactly.
And even though it feels a bit kind of, humans are stupid, right? They like to work for free. But maybe that's how we are. That's how we became a successful human race, right?
Exactly. By having a sense of purpose, and as such, then you take care of your family and you give to the society, and so on and so forth. Wonderful.
But by the way, this happens with other animals. If you look at birds, for example, the birds sing songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the birds, they try to sing beautiful songs
Mm-hmm.
for mating, but not
Correct.
always for mating. And why a bird has this drive to do a job well done, right? And it's with many other animals the same. And so I think that's beautiful.
I think you're sure. I think they probably have a similar quality that we like beauty as humans, right? I mean, when you go to a house, I show you two houses. They serve the same purpose, but one of them is more beautiful. You're gonna choose the one that's more beautiful. So I think we seek beauty and excellence as humans in general. I want to go back to the idea of purpose and AI becoming so powerful. So, like, let's step 100 years into the future. Some alarmists, one of them is Mo Gaudat. He was at Google. I don't know if you heard of him, but he is making the claim that AI will become much, much, much smarter than humans. And as such, there is the possibility that it will either become a super intelligence for good, that it will only do ethical things, because anyway, ethics and logic, they go hand in hand. So if you become really intelligent, you're going to do the ethical thing, the right thing. But there is also another possibility that some other alarmists are saying that, well, then AI will look at us as inferior, and it might see that we're not necessarily good for the planet and we're not doing the right thing. So, but are these conversations we should engage in right now, or we should just relax and let's see how things unfold?
In this one, I'm with Yuval Noah Hariri, and we should be very alarmed. And it's not just the AI. There's large group of population that are radicalized,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a problem. And yeah, and the other thing is, when the AI is super smart, I think it's fine. The problem is when the AI is not super smart; it's just double smarter than a human. That's when you have a competition incentive, right, to destroy the other. And so when things are very unequal, there's no need to fight. But when things are a bit equal, that's a problem.
Okay. So when it reaches that level where it has agency and where it's comparative intelligence with the human consciousness, let's say, then that's a problem. Then there's going to be a fight, is what you're saying.
Yeah, the worst fights are when both sides are equal, right?
Wonderful. Well, not wonderful. All right. But I guess as a society, the only thing we can do right now is just to engage in a conversation about it. The
We are,
Yes.
we are working on uncharted territory, and I think it's super dangerous. We don't know where we're going, and it should be more control. But it's like global warming, right? Nobody wants to take the first step.
Exactly. But there is also the claim that AI now it's in its infancy, even though, of course, I mean, it started decades ago, but it's still at its infancy. And as such, if you have a baby, if you take care of the baby and give it good values and give it love and give it all that, then hopefully it will grow to become a good adult and someone who's ethical in the society. So the argument goes that if you train AI to be ethical from now, then chances are it will become for the good, AI for good, for the good.
Yeah, it's a nice human story. We tend to anthropomorphize everything we see around us, and we should not make this mistake with AI. It's a different life form that we don't understand at all.
Mhm. 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 But how far are we from this point of AI having an agency? You're muted now. I can't hear you. Oh.
That is the $1 million question. I mean, if I knew the answer, I wouldn't be here.
You would be at MIT, all right?
At least.
Okay, very good. I think we have, it was an interesting discussion. Do you want to share any personal experiences or case studies or anything that highlight the impact of AI, or any general advice to our viewers and listeners?
Well, there's this explosion in papers about AI. Most of it from business schools. So business schools, well, everybody has a lot of pressure to publish papers. So business schools, organization psychology, and so on. So okay, put AI in the organization? How does it affect? Compare the students with the creativity of the AI, which is more creative, and so on. So you start seeing all these papers redoing all the previous papers, but now with AI. Compared with AI, and so on. So it's really fascinating to see these developments. And the other thing is, it's changing so fast that it's very easy to get stressed. I mean, everybody's getting stressed.
100%.
OpenAI, yeah.
And it's also entering in domains that we would not have thought it would be possible. So, for instance, there is the concept of AI companionship. AI is becoming a friend. I mean, that if you told me that 20 years ago, I would have laughed. But now it's a reality, and people are having AI as companions.
Yes, and people that use these AI chat tools suffer a lot of loneliness. We still have to see if it's positive or negative for them.
All right, so I think we should probably have this conversation 10 years from now, and let's compare and see if we have some
Game
major
on.
changes in our
Game on.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Jose. That was a very interesting conversation. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Dr. Amin.